Borrowed eyes. I don't remember when the world stopped looking familiar to me. All I know is that it didn't happen all at once. It came in fragments, tiny, almost imperceptible distortions, like seeing my own house through a sheet of warped glass. At first, I thought it was exhaustion, maybe too much time spent staring at my laptop screen, chasing deadlines until my eyes burned. But no amount of sleep, no amount of coffee, and no pair of prescription lenses could explain what was happening. I would look at the mirror in the bathroom and see myself, my face, my jawline, my tired, unshaven cheeks. But my eyes weren't mine anymore. They were sharper, as if someone had swapped my vision for a stranger's. I could see details I never noticed before, faint cracks in the plaster above the doorframe, the subtle twitch of the spider hiding in the corner, the pores on my own nose like craters under a magnifying glass. It terrified me. But it fascinated me too. The first real test came late one night, when I looked out of my bedroom window. My apartment faced a row of houses across the street. Nothing special, just aging structures with chipped paint, porch lights, and the occasional shadow of a neighbor walking by. But with these new eyes, I saw things I shouldn't have been able to see. A flicker of movement inside a window across the road. A curtain shifting ever so slightly. A pale hand pressing against the glass, fingers trembling like they belonged to someone lost or dying. I blinked, and the hand was gone. I told myself I imagined it. That my brain was conjuring nonsense because of fatigue. But when I lay down to sleep, I felt a heavy pressure on my eyelids. Like they didn't want to close. Like something, or someone, wanted me to keep looking. The dream started after that. I'd wake in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, my sheets twisted around me like restraints. In the dreams, I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was standing in strange places I'd never visited, an abandoned railway tunnel with dripping water echoing in the dark, a deserted playground where rusty swings creaked in the wind, a hospital hallway lined with flickering lights and closed doors. I wasn't just seeing these places. I was there. Breathing the air. Hearing the echoes. Smelling the mildew. And always, without fail, I saw her. She was never close. Always distant, always partially hidden. A silhouette at the far end of the tunnel. A figure sitting on the last swing. A woman standing motionless in the hospital corridor, her head tilted as though she was listening for something. I never saw her face. I never got close enough. But I knew in my marrow, that she could see me. Every time I woke up, my eyes ached. They felt used. Like I had borrowed them for too long, or worse, like someone else had borrowed them through me. The real breaking point came on a Thursday evening. I had gone to the convenience store a few blocks away. The clerk behind the counter was humming under his breath, some half-forgotten tune, when suddenly my vision blurred. Not the normal kind of blur, this was different. The store melted away in front of me, the shelves, the soda fridge, the gum rack, all dissolving into blackness. And then, for just a second, I saw through her eyes. She was standing outside my own apartment door. I froze, dropping the bag of chips I had just paid for. I saw my doormat. My scratched-up doorframe. The dent near the lock from when I accidentally slammed it too hard last winter. I saw her hand, trembling, reaching for my door handle. Then, just as quickly, it was gone, and I was back in the store, the clerk staring at me with wide eyes, asking if I was all right. I wasn't. That night, I didn't go home. I checked into a cheap motel with stained carpets and buzzing lights. I couldn't risk walking back to that door. Not after what I'd seen. But even in that motel room, I couldn't sleep. My eyes kept twitching, burning, pulling me toward the window. And when I finally gave in and looked outside, she was there. Across the street. Standing perfectly still under a broken street lamp, her face hidden by shadow. Waiting. And I realized, with a clarity that made me sick to my stomach, these weren't my eyes anymore. They were borrowed. And whoever they belonged to wanted them back. I didn't sleep that night in the motel. I couldn't. Every time my eyelids fluttered closed, I saw her again, standing outside, head tilted at an unnatural angle, as though she was listening not with her ears but with her entire body. I tried to remind myself that she wasn't really there, that she couldn't have followed me, that it was all in my mind. But the truth is, I didn't believe myself anymore. By morning, my eyes felt swollen, heavy, but sharper than ever. I could see every crack in the ceiling paint, every dead insect caught in the fluorescent light above. I tried washing my face, splashing water into my eyes, hoping to dull the clarity. Nothing helped. The eyes weren't mine to control anymore. The worst part wasn't the visions. It was the feeling. The constant pressure behind my pupils, like unseen hands holding them open. And behind that pressure, something watching. Not just her, something else. Something patient. I checked out of the motel just after noon, against my better judgment. My phone had buzzed with missed calls from my landlord, from work, even from my sister. If I didn't go home, someone else would. I didn't want anyone near that door except me. Walking back to my building felt like dragging myself into a grave. Every step, my vision flickered, back and forth, as if I were sharing these eyes with another presence. For half a second, I'd see the cracked pavement under my feet. The next second, I'd see from across the street, watching myself approach. The worst part was realizing that I wasn't just imagining it. I was both the observer and the observed. When I reached my door, I hesitated. My keys rattled in my hand. I didn't want to open it, but I knew I had no choice. The air around me felt charged, humming, like the moment before lightning strikes. I slid the key into the lock, bracing for something to happen. Nothing. The apartment looked exactly as I had left it. A pile of unopened mail on the counter. Dishes stacked in the sink. My couch, sagging in the middle from years of use. Normal. Comforting. Safe. But my eyes betrayed me. Because in the reflection of the darkened television screen, I saw her. Standing behind me. My body locked. My lungs refused to work. I turned slowly, praying that the reflection was a trick, a shadow, anything but real. But when I faced the room, no one was there. Just the couch, the coffee table, the faint hum of my refrigerator. Still, the reflection lingered in my mind, her tall, rigid figure, her face blurred like smudged glass, her eyes blacker than anything I'd ever seen. That night, I couldn't resist the pull of the dreams. I woke up in the railway tunnel again, the one I had never visited in reality. My feet echoed on damp stone. The air was thick, cold, metallic. And she was closer this time. I heard her whisper. Not words, sounds. Wet, broken, like someone speaking underwater. My stomach turned, but I strained to listen. My new eyes, sharper in the dream than in life, caught details, the way her hands twitched at her sides, the way her mouth didn't move even as the whispers poured out. Then she raised her hand, slowly, shaking, bone-thin fingers stretching toward me. And in that moment, I realized she wasn't trying to hurt me. She was trying to give me something. I woke up gasping, clawing at my face. My eyes burned worse than ever. The whites were bloodshot, veined with angry red lines that seemed to pulse under the surface. In the bathroom mirror, my pupils dilated unnaturally wide, swallowing nearly all the color. I barely recognized myself anymore. I should have gone to a doctor. I should have gone to a priest. But instead, I stayed. Because the truth was clawing its way into my skull, these weren't dreams. These were memories. Not mine. Hers. I was carrying them now. Borrowing them. And if I was borrowing, then eventually, she'd come to collect. By the third night, I understood there was no running from it. No motel room, no locked door, no dim-lit corner could protect me. The eyes were no longer borrowed, they were claimed. I was simply the host. I tried to resist sleep, sitting upright on the couch, every light in my apartment blazing. I kept the television on to drown out the silence, but it didn't matter. My vision began to ripple, the edges of reality bending like melting film. The screen flickered, and suddenly it wasn't static, it was her. She stood inside the television, her head tilted the same way I had seen outside the motel. Her body jerking slightly, like she was learning how to move. And then, she stepped forward. Not toward the camera. Toward me. The lights in my apartment popped, one by one, until I was left in darkness. When my eyes adjusted, she was no longer inside the television. She was in my living room. I couldn't move. Couldn't scream. My heart hammered so violently I thought it might burst. She was clearer now, her form solid, her skin gray and stretched, her hair dripping as though she had just pulled herself from water. And her eyes. God, her eyes were identical to mine. That's when I understood. They weren't borrowed. They were hers. Every dream, every glimpse, every reflection had been her way of reclaiming what was taken. And I had been foolish enough to use them, to see through them, to let them burrow into me until I was nothing more than a vessel. She crouched in front of me, her face inches from mine. Her mouth didn't move, but her voice filled my skull, vibrating behind my teeth. You've seen what I've seen. You've walked where I've walked. Now give them back. Her fingers reached for my face, ice-cold and trembling. I wanted to fight, to push her away, but I was paralyzed, every muscle frozen by her presence. The moment her fingertips touched my eyelids, white-hot pain exploded through my skull. It felt like claws digging behind my eyes, pulling, tugging, ripping. I screamed. Blood poured down my cheeks, warm and metallic, filling my mouth as I gasped. My vision fractured into shards, splitting into hundreds of pieces, my living room, her face, the railway tunnel, the playground, the hospital corridor, all folding in on each other until there was nothing left but black. And then silence. When I woke, I was still sitting on my couch. The lights were on again. The television played nothing but static. I raised my hands to my face, trembling. My eyes were intact. No blood. No scars. Just the same tired, sunken gaze I'd always known. For a moment, I thought it had all been a nightmare. That I had finally broken free. But then I looked around. The cracks in the ceiling were gone. The chipped paint on the doorframe was smooth. The pile of unopened mail had vanished. This wasn't my apartment. I stood up, panic rising in my chest. My feet echoed on damp stone. The air smelled of mildew. And when I turned, I saw the tunnel stretching endlessly behind me. And at the far end, a man stood. His posture stiff, his movements jerky, his eyes wide with terror. I recognized him instantly. Because they were my eyes. And as the realization sank in, a voice whispered inside my head, the same broken voice that had haunted me for nights. Now you will watch, until someone else borrows them from you. The tunnel swallowed my scream.